All right, so welcome everybody to our Creating Tomorrow Facebook Live event. We're really excited to have you here today. I've got a group of FCGs and interns. FCGs are our Ford College Graduate Program, so they're folks that have probably interned with the company and have started full-time, and our interns obviously worked with us this summer, so they're all excited to talk with you today. My name is Billy Dunn. I'm a talent specialist supporting our manufacturing and purchasing team. So I work with all of our recruiters and the teams that are out working to bring in great candidates such as yourselves. So let me turn it over first. I'm going to introduce our interns. First up is Nia Keith. She was an intern from Southern Illinois University. Nia, want to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm a senior at Southern Illinois University. I was an intern in the product development department. And yeah, I'll be returning to Ford in this upcoming summer.
Great, thank you. Up next is Ben Canda. Ben is at Western Michigan University. Want to say hello to the audience here?
Yeah, how's it going, guys? I'm Ben Canda. I'm currently a senior at Western Michigan University. I will be graduating in the summer of 2020 and then shortly after be returning as an FCG. And I spent my summer as an intern within manufacturing within MP&L for a group called NAVL, which is North American Vehicle Logistics.
Great. Thank you, Ben. And then Josh Jay is our last intern today. Josh is at Michigan Technological University. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys. I am finishing up my degree in material science and engineering at Michigan Tech. And this past summer, I interned as a manufacturing engineer in the Livonia transmission plant virtually, working in the heat treat group. And I'll be returning this coming December as a manufacturing engineer, FCG.
Great, thank you. So Nia, Ben, and Josh were all where you are a year ago. They were watching videos like this and learning more about our process. So I'm excited for what they're going to be able to share with you. As I mentioned, we have a couple of our Ford College graduates on the line as well. So that's Sarah Beau. She's with manufacturing. You want to introduce yourself, Sarah?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sarah Beau. Like Billy said, I'm part of the manufacturing organization. I graduated from the University of Michigan Dearborn with my bachelor's in industrial engineering. I was also an intern in 2016 at Michigan Assembly Plant's body shop. And then I joined as a Ford College graduate in manufacturing, specifically powertrain manufacturing engineering, or PTME, in 2017.
Thank you, Sarah. And then our last guest today is Sam Angeli. Sam is in our product development team. Sam, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Billy. My name is Sam Angeli. I am a graduate of the University of Mount Union in South Alliance, Ohio. I joined Ford initially as an intern in 2016 inside the materials engineering department, and then came back as an FCG in 2017, and I've done rotations throughout the materials engineering department and other rotations within product development generally. And I've recently came off my FCG program this year. So that's me.
Great, thank you. All right, so we've got a lot of people interested to hear about your experiences and hear about working at Ford. So I guess we can start. Ben, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what made you choose Ford? What brought you to the company in the first place?
Yeah, thank you, Billy. I would say the reason I chose Ford, one of the biggest reasons, is the family that Ford brings. You know, you've always heard that Ford is a family company, but you can never truly experience it until you've been inside it. And I can say from the bottom up, like everyone that I've met in my time during my internship made me feel like not only a coworker, but a friend. You know, my supervisor was fantastic. The people I worked with were fantastic. And even Bill Ford himself, he did a little intern committee Zoom call about halfway through my intern experience. And honestly, I can't speak more highly of the guy. He's fantastic, and he's what you want in a CEO. And I felt like if I saw him on the street, he could just, you know, I could just say hi to him and have a conversation with him. So like I said, everyone that I've met in my time this past summer was absolutely fantastic and made me feel at home and where I want to be moving forward in my career.
Great, thank you. Nia or Josh, any thoughts on what brought you to Ford?
Well, I was interested in Ford because I've always loved the Mustangs. So I wanted to be a part of, the behind the scenes part of it. But as far as once I got into the internship, I did have a great team. I did like my projects, my team was helpful in helping me understand because, I was new. I didn't know anything about what you guys did, but they were very helpful along the way, answered all of my questions. They just made me feel like I belonged.
Great, awesome. And Josh, what about you? What brought you to Ford?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people say, the people were a huge part of it. I had heard about just how fantastic the family was before I started my internship. But as I went through the interview process and the internship, it just became really clear to me that Ford isn't just a company that says that they care about their people, but they're actually a company that really invests and cares about the people and employees. And then I think on top of that, the excellence that I saw within the organization really draws me in, just the excellence both within the people that are there and the products that are produced. And it's really inspiring and appealing to work for a company that cares about producing excellent products and to work with people that are trying to do their best every single day. And that's kind of always encouraging me to do my best as well. And so that's something that just drew me back to the company.
Nice. Thank you. Sarah and Sam, as FCGs, you had the opportunity to intern with us and then chose to come back. What was it about that internship experience that kind of drove you to come back as a Ford College graduate?
Kind of along the same lines. I feel like everyone's kind of talking about, it's the people. But it is the people, right? I know during my internship, I got to meet like a lot of intelligent folks and got to see how they got to, I have a chemistry degree, so I got to see other chemists thriving inside an automotive atmosphere, which was nice to see and see that they were respected. And then in the broader scope that you got to interface with a whole bunch of, different smart people out there and pick their brains and be curious. And so, yeah, that was more mine. And also I've always had a heart for automotive, so kind of just fit in.
Great.
Yeah, I would definitely echo everything that everyone's already said. It is a lot about the people and definitely the Ford family. But also, I came to Ford because I had teachers at U of M Dearborn who worked at Ford during the day and then taught in the evenings at U of M Dearborn. So I thought that if there were teachers that were so dedicated to what they do that they wanted to teach, I thought that was really inspiring, and I wanted to work with more people like that. Additionally, I really enjoy, one of our underlying values is our commitment to the community and making the world a better place. And Ford is just surrounded with people that have that same value. And I think that really helps when you're working with people that have those same values.
Thank you. So Sarah touched on our commitment to the community. I think that's something that brings a lot of people into Ford. For our interns or our FCGs as well, have you had any opportunities to work on any projects where you got to give back to the community, whether it's through your job or through volunteering?
Yeah, so I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Ford gives you 16 hours a year to go out and volunteer. And there's a whole bunch of projects that you can choose from. And we always use it as a team building event. So one of the most recent ones we went to was we went to a nursing home out in the Ann Arbor area, and we did a whole bunch of much needed landscaping. They have they call it a Serenity Garden. So we did some landscaping out there for them, for the old folks out there. But we've also done stuff for cutting out invasive species at wildlife preserve here in the Metro Detroit area. So usually my team uses that as a team building exercise. So,
any of our interns get a chance this summer to do any community service or any volunteering?
Unfortunately not, because we happen to be all virtual, but what Sam said sounds fantastic, and I can't wait to get the chance to do that when I come back as an FCG. So yeah, I'm looking forward to do that in the future, but unfortunately couldn't do that this summer due to being all virtual.
Sure. Sarah, what about you? Anything you've been able to do? Ben mentioned kind of the issue this year with coronavirus. Have you been able to work in any opportunities there?
Yeah, actually, so as I'm sure you've seen in the media, Ford had an incredible response to the pandemic, a lot in the manufacturing space. So amongst the different efforts, I had the opportunity to participate in surgical mask production. So it was incredible because we bought and acquired equipment within 10 days, which is a process that normally takes about a year. And it was within 10 days, it was on our plant floor and we had that equipment running and we were making face masks, something that I think we can all agree we never thought we would ever make at Ford Motor Company. But in light of 2020, we did it. And it was really just neat to see a whole crew of automotive engineers come together and just make high quality face masks with the underlying reason to be there, just to help some people there. Their daughters were working as nurses, or there were people who had firemen, like on the being first responders, that they just wanted to make face masks so that they were protected. And a lot of the rest of the company was at home, working from home, being safe. And it was just really humbling to take part of that experience and take part of the impact to the community.
And I know Josh mentioned earlier, a commitment to excellence from the company, and I think that really shone through the Project Apollo efforts. If anyone watching it is interested, we've got a video like this where we talked with interns and FCGs that got to work on Project Apollo and work with the coronavirus response. That'll be on this page, this Ford Careers page, pretty soon, hopefully, so you get a chance to check that out. So for folks that are sitting at home and watching this video now that are interested in how you get to be an intern, maybe our interns can walk us through. As I mentioned, a year ago you were in those shoes. Nia, can you walk us through maybe how someone at Southern Illinois University made their way up to Ford Motor Company?
Yeah, so I'm part of a group called NESB, and so Ford was at a conference in November, the Fall Regional Conference, and so it's basically a big career fair. And I spoke with a recruiter, had a conversation with her about my resume, projects that I've done, the basics, and then she just told me to apply. And I was set up with an interview the next day, actually, the next morning. And yeah, I just went through the basic interview process. She asked some questions, how I would respond to certain things. And then I got my offer letter a few weeks later.
Nice, great. So you were involved in an organization, went to a conference, and met Ford that way. Ben or Josh, how was your recruitment process?
Yeah, I was recruited through our school's career fair, and so for the previous few years before I had interned, I just gotten a chance to connect with a recruiter that had been coming up through, especially other departments, meet and greet opportunities, and then just got to chat with him this past year a little more, and then also doing that, he introduced me to someone that had interned in my area the year before, and so I think talking with a previous intern was really helpful as well. And then so I kind of got to see that perspective, and then went to the career fair and had an interview and got the offer shortly after.
Great. So for anybody that wants to share, what was the best part about the process? What was the best part about applying and interviewing?
I would say the best part for me, so just to kind of go off that, I'll share a little bit about my story. Ford does not recruit at Western Michigan. So I found the job application through Glassdoor or one of those, job application websites. And, as you said, let's go for it because I've always wanted to work for Ford. And I said, why not? So I applied and I got a phone screening a few weeks later, which was basically just a mini interview, just a more of a conversation and get to know me, maybe a few technical questions. And then a few weeks later, I got a interview over Skype or Zoom. And that was about 4 or 5 technical questions. And then after that, my favorite part, like you asked, Billy, was just the conversation that I had with the recruiter. His name is Kevin Save. He's a fantastic guy, and we found a lot of common ground, common interests in our conversation. So I would say that was my favorite part, just being able to connect with somebody that I don't even know, and being able to talk to him all the time. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. So Ben brings up a great point. Our jobs are open right now on careers.ford.com. So if you're sitting at a school where maybe Ford, hasn't had a career fair presence, or you're not in an organization where you're going to get a chance to run into our recruiters at a national or regional conference, follow Ben's example and check out careers.ford.com and find an opportunity that fits what you're looking for and apply, get into the system, and hopefully you'll get to talk with a recruiter soon. We did have a question in the chat about some of the questions asked in an interview. I'm going to turn that over to the panel here in a second, but I did want to also note we do have on this Ford Careers page, we do have a video called Nailing the Ford Interview that goes really in deep. So if you do have an interview coming up with the company, definitely check that out. Or if you're just interested, you can also give that a spin. Sarah or Sam, any thoughts on what the interview process is like? I know it's probably been a while for you, but any good memories from the process?
Yeah, I was trying to think back a little bit. I do know, so I was recruited from a career fair or one of our 4-day events on campus, and heard from the recruiter, and then within the next week we had interviews on campus. And from what I recall, most of the questions were experience based. And to be honest, that's about as much as I remember.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines. I don't remember exactly the questions because I think when I interviewed for my internship specifically, I think they were asking. I think they had like a board of questions they had to ask everybody, which I understand. Keep everything fair. But I think most of it wasn't very technical. It was more getting to know about me and how I approach situations, right? So I couldn't tell you an exact question. I don't remember.
For our 2020 interns, are there any questions that stick out in your mind? I know, again, it's been probably a year or so, but are there any questions that really stand out for you from the experience?
I have a question. So I was asked if a chair is broken, how would you go about fixing it? And it kind of seems very basic, but they kind of want to know how you think. So I just really answered it, along the lines of, well, I look at the problem, where the issue was, work backwards from that. I would ask someone else to look at the problem or the chair, figure out where the problem is. Ask them, do they think that going about it this way is right, or do they have, a certain way of thinking about it? And yeah, that was just a question that stood out because at first I was just like, I don't know, fix the chair. It's a chair. But I just kind of had to really think about the question.
It's great advice. Ben or Josh, anything that stands out or that you remember from the process?
Just a lot of technical questions for me. A lot of if this situation were to happen, what would you do? I can't remember specific questions. Nothing like what do you do if a chair is broken? But just a lot of STAR method questions. What did you do? What was the result? What did you learn? Kind of thing. So that was my process.
Yeah, I would echo. I had some situational questions, which I thought were just really good. Like, what would you do if you were in this sort of situation? I think one was something has gone wrong in the plant with something that you're in charge of. And I just thought those were good to explain your reasoning and your kind of thought process behind solving those types of issues, sort of in a similar manner to what Neo was saying.
Cool. So I know for folks watching, getting the job is only half the equation that you're here to learn about. I'm excited to get talking with our interns and FCGs about what the work actually is when you're an engineer or in the engineering branches here at Ford Motor Company. So I peeked at our interns, what they did this summer, and all three of you had really cool projects. So I'm excited, to hear a little bit more. Nia, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you got to do this summer?
Yeah, so like we mentioned earlier, I worked in the product development team. We were working on a new software that Ford is coming out with. So basically, my job was to look over software and to figure out, what was going wrong with it. There were about 5 specific issues that we were having, and so I had a problem. My other team members had a problem, like my manager. We had an optical engineer on our team. He worked on another part, and basically we had daily meetings where we would just come together and discuss, any solutions that we had, or suggestions we had for the other people, such as, did you ask this person in this department? Have you, tried going about it this way? And yeah, it was just kind of fun to work on something that I would be able to see the outcome in, in the future. Be the behind the scenes, work in the behind the scenes, with the cars and everything, especially the Mustangs. But yeah, so that's really what I did this past summer.
Cool. Ben, what was your summer like?
Yeah, so for me, I had 3 main projects, and I'll just go over them briefly. I won't go into too much depth, but my first project had to do with costing out networks. So basically, vehicles got to get from point A to point B. How much is that going to cost, and where are the costs going? The second project that I worked on was actually, I think, my favorite one, because I was actually got to work with the Bronco. As you all know, the Bronco just got announced a couple months ago. I personally love the car, hoping to get one, but I was able to witness a load test. So basically, I got to see the Bronco being loaded onto a car haul. But back on track, the second project dealt with trying to find cost savings for the F-150 and the Bronco out of the Michigan assembly plant. So that was really cool. And then my third project dealt with the automation of the ship-through process. And the ship-through process is essentially, in a nutshell, how vehicles get certified so they can be on their way to where they need to be. So that was my summer, and I had a great time. It was a fantastic summer.
Great. Josh, any highlights from your summer?
Yeah, so this summer being virtual, in the heat treat group, I worked with my manager, found a project that primarily was using historical data to kind of develop a statistical model that would help improve future heat treatment trials and work on getting those heat treatment parameters right in the future. And so that was really cool because I got to learn some new software and some new skills that I wouldn't have otherwise done. And then also a lot on statistics, which I found interesting. But then also getting to optimize for just kind of reducing cost and time in the future, and just kind of figuring out how that whole process works. So, and then also being virtual, my manager just did a really good job giving me opportunities to jump in on other smaller projects, or just job shadow people working on things like additive manufacturing and the electrification, and just other areas where material science has a strong component in the company.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really stood out to me looking at your different projects, is that all 3 of you really got to get your hands on kind of the future of Ford there, whether it's the Bronco, the Mustang Mach-E, some stuff we can't even talk about with Josh. This is a summer that you really got to leave your fingerprints on the next generation of Ford Motor Company. For Sam and Sarah, you've been with us a little bit longer. What's it like when you've been with the company for a little while and you've kind of had that, maybe a deeper dive or a stronger grasp on a project here at the company?
Yeah, so in PD, you do 6 month rotations, and each one you kind of get, you got to have a month to kind of learn what you're going to do, and then you got 5 months to kind of let loose and do your project, which sometimes 5 months seems like a lot, sometimes 5 months isn't long enough, but you make do with your supervisor and try to figure that out. But so I've had the opportunity to work on projects within materials engineering, trying to get new materials approved for, at that time, the early on stages of developing the Mach-E battery pack, as well as I've been inside different parts where we got to look at government regulations inside the SANSE and seeing how can we be better prepared for these regulations that are coming up in a cost-effective way, as always. And then inside research, I was able to go into and work on some lithium-ion cathode technology. So kind of a broad scope, but overall inside the FCG program, you kind of have that, kind of get that one project that you kind of get to be the owner of. And I think as the interns were saying as well, like you always have your team to lean on to kind of help you through it, because no one expects you to be the expert by any means. I mean, we all know that we're, early on in our career, so it's always nice to have a team to help you out. So I guess that's kind of a broad view of the work as an FCG in the PD realm, at least.
Sure.
Yeah, so I can speak to the FCG experience within manufacturing a little bit. So I started as an FCG in 2017, and I just wrapped up my rotation. So I'm diving into my post FCG experience here at Ford. So I had, within manufacturing, you have 6 different rotations, each being about 6 months as well. Your rotations can be mostly within manufacturing, but there's also opportunity to rotate outside as well, say in product development, to see what maybe you rotate through the component that you are working to assemble in manufacturing. So there is opportunity to see other parts of the company as well. I had 6 different rotations. I won't go through all of them, but I'll touch on maybe my favorite. So I had the opportunity to work at our Advanced Manufacturing Center, which is a newer facility in Redford, Michigan. And this is, we call it a manufacturing engineer's playground. So what we do here is we take newer technologies, throw them into the facility, we call that, and see what we can do with it. So we develop it, we see if we can break it, and then find different scenarios that we can scale it in the plants. So my project when I was at AMC, the Advanced Manufacturing Center, I had a project that was focused around the factory of the future. Can't go into much details there, but my project was essentially figure out what a workstation would look like in the future. And that was really fun for me. Normally we follow a lot of standards and have a lot of strict processes that we follow in developing our assembly lines and powertrain. So this was a unique experience that I could get creative and kind of add my own flair to things and see what we could come up with and see if we could make it possible.
Great. That sounds fun. having the restrictions lifted a little bit does sound like a lot of fun, a great opportunity. Thank you everybody for sharing. I mean, that's again, we see, FCGs and interns getting that opportunity to get their hands on the projects that, again, some of it we can't even talk about. It's that new. So that's great to see that. I wanted to circle back to an idea that a couple of folks brought up around this being a real family environment, this being a real family company. For our interns, what are some things that you saw this summer that really stood out to you as support for interns or support for you as someone new to the company?
Well, I had a few mentors that helped me along the way. I had an FCG mentor. She, reached out. We had weekly meetings where we just talked about either the internship or just whatever. So she really made it a smooth transition for me the entire summer. I was able to ask her for help for my final project. At the end of my internship, she gave me pointers on what she did, just, do's and don'ts, stuff that, I just asked her things that, maybe I wasn't, too comfortable asking my managers or my supervisors. And so, yeah, she really helped me along the way. My team members also, they were helpful. They answered any questions that I have, any and all questions. They didn't make it seem like, oh, that's a dumb question or anything. They were really welcoming, and they wanted me to, learn and wanted me to feel welcome.
I would say for me, I have like a pretty cool story. So I have a friend who works, actually he's an FCG right now, and he's working in a different department. And as soon as I started my internship, I kind of asked him, hey, is there anyone, that would be a good networking opportunity? And within 30 minutes later, I had, 4 or 5 different people who worked in, I worked in manufacturing, they worked in purchasing, reaching out to me and trying to schedule Zoom, calls with me just to see how I'm doing and get to know me. So that support of the people trying to reach out to me and trying to help me for me going into an internship that's all virtual was really, really cool. And brings back to the idea that it's a very family oriented company.
Yep, I would definitely echo those too. I think coming in early on, we had a call with my group to get to know everyone, and then soon after that, I just had a lot of people reaching out to me to set up calls or to show what kind of things that they were working on, just to get to know them a little bit better, and just the amount of support that I saw throughout the few months of my internship really stuck out compared to other companies, I think. And then also, I realized only 2 weeks into the internship experience, I think that in some way, whether it was video calls or just a webcast, that I had connected with every person on my direct line of hierarchy up to the CEO. And I think that really sticks out as in a company as large as Ford to have leadership that extends all the way down like that.
Yeah, that's great. I know this summer we did have a ton of opportunities for our interns to connect with upper management, including, like you mentioned, our CEO at the time. So that's great that you were able to track that down all the way down to being an intern from the CEO. That's great. That is a great question I'd want to ask our interns. This was your first experience with Ford, and it was a very atypical summer for us. What were some of the things that Ford did to keep you connected and keep you focused in a virtual environment?
Yeah, so for me, basically, there was a couple of things that they kind of, tried to keep us connected. Our FCG buddies for all the manufacturing interns, scheduled like weekly or bi-weekly meetings, and we'd meet more than once a week sometimes, just to kind of just hang out and discuss what's going on. And then sometimes we'd hear from FCGs and they'd tell us what part of the rotation they're in. And then another really cool thing that they did was something called a scavenger. Well, it was just a scavenger hunt. And basically they gave us like a bunch of different departments and people that you'd have to reach out to. And that kept you busy while you were, maybe you have some downtime or something like that. They kept you busy and getting to know more people within Ford.
Thank you.
Yeah, another cool thing we had every Friday, Brandy Joe actually hosted a game night for the interns. I thought that was kind of fun and cool, just, a relaxing and fun way to end, our hard week.
Yeah, we heard a lot of great things about Brandy Joe. Brandy Joe's running the show for us right now. Brandy Joe did a great job this summer putting on those game nights for everybody. Yeah. For our FCGs, Sarah and Sam, what have been some of the highlights for you since we've made the move into the work from home life, the virtual world here?
So I'm currently inside the hybrid model. I'm one of the few people that get we're kind of on a work from home 3 days, and then working inside the lab 3 days. Since I can't bring my analytical equipment home,
Sure.
So I got to experience all of the Ford protocols firsthand that have been pretty easy to follow and pretty self-explanatory and keeping everyone safe. But it has been a transition early on before we were in the hybrid model, trying to make sure that there's still effective communication. I think the implementation of WebEx Teams specifically inside my group has been huge, trying to keep everyone on track and especially on projects. So there's a lot of handoff inside my particular group on helping a lot of collaboration. So it was definitely a hurdle, but I feel like after we got through that, it's been pretty smooth sailing, almost, I would say. But we also have the benefit of the hybrid model to still go in and get our analytical work done. So I'm sure Sarah can speak more on some of the work from home more.
Yeah, so it's really different working from home from a manufacturing engineer's perspective. We're used to being on the plant floor most of our days. So there are some days where we go to our suppliers and see how builds are going there, or we go to the plant to check on equipment there as well. But I am mostly from home, working from home. It is definitely an adjustment. But one good thing that I think has come of this is our leverage on technology, leveraging technology. So some of the examples, like Sam had mentioned, WebEx Teams, but we're also using like our virtual reality and augmented reality tools. So right now we're in a stage where we're running off our equipment across the world. We have equipment in Japan that we need to understand the functionality without being there. So we have been using augmented reality and virtual reality to discuss and see live what's happening while our machines are running there and we're here in the States.
Nice, thank you. That does sound like a good balance there for both of you, actually. Sarah, I'm going to stick with you for a second, if that's all right. We've got a question from the chat asking what the manufacturing environment is like. So, you and Sam might have a better picture to that than our interns who were virtual this year. So maybe give us a little overview of what a manufacturing environment, what the plant's really like.
Yeah, so I would definitely say our plants are in a very exciting place. In manufacturing, every day is different. Every day is something new. There's always a problem that could be solved or fixed. But I like it because I don't like to do the same thing every day. And it provides new challenges and new opportunities every day. Right now, the plants look a little bit different, but they're still operating. Our wonderful union family is working on the line with face masks, working safely to ensure that they're safely distanced and making our parts still at rate and with high quality. So I'm trying to think anything else specific. Each plant is different. It has its own culture, but I've worked probably in 5 different plants, and that Ford family culture is still there, and it's really awesome that has carried into the plants as well.
Nice, thank you.
The only plant experience I really had was all PD FCGs, their first month within Ford, you work on the line at Dearborn Truck Plant. So you're down you're down on the floor with everyone else doing your assigned task. So like I was on chassis 1 at DTP, putting on body mounts and stuff early on, and you get to meet some funny people that get you through the day really nicely, and everyone was like very welcome to having us FCGs come down and seeing when I'm not in a DNR rotation, but I know I worked with other DNRs, and they're like, hey, at the end of the day, I need to be thinking about how these people are going to be interacting with the product and how it's going to make their life either hard or easy.
Sure.
Right. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And not to inject myself too much, but I spent a year and a half in a plant at Flat Rock Assembly Plant where we make the Mustang and the Continental. And there is something magical about being able to start at one end with a roll of steel or aluminum and walk to the other end of the plant, and there's a fully formed Mustang or Continental rolling off the line. You can't beat that experience. You can't get that pretty much anywhere else. It's again, magical is really the only word I have for it. So we are coming up on the close of the show here. I did want to give our interns one last opportunity to maybe share any advice, any final thoughts they have for the folks watching. Again, if you're sitting there watching this and you're thinking you want to pursue Ford Motor Company, please check out careers.ford.com. We have all of our internships posted right now. We definitely encourage you to apply. And again, I'm going to turn it over to our interns one more time to give any final thoughts or advice for you, the potential applicant.
Yeah, so I can go. I would say the biggest thing, like I said earlier, is just go for it. Like there's no reason, there should be nothing holding you back to just go for it. I just went for it, and here I am today. So another thing that I want to, another piece of advice that I would give, sorry, I can't speak right now. Another piece of advice that I would give is if you do get the shot and you do get the opportunity to do an interview, prepare. There's going to be questions that they're going to ask you, and if you're not prepared for them, then you might be lost for words. So make sure you prepare before when you get your shot, and don't make the best opportunity of the shot that you're given. So that would be the advice I have to give.
I want to piggyback off that and just make sure you're doing your research on the company, because they might ask you questions about it. It could be something as simple as, what do you just like about Ford? Or they could just ask, how did you hear about us, or anything like that. And you don't want to be in the interview just stuck, because they'll notice that and they'll go based off of that. But a piece of advice that I do have is to just ask questions, whether that's in school or if you do get the internship. Don't be afraid to just ask your managers or the higher ups, how do I do this, or I don't understand this. Because I know for my internship, I had to read a document. It was a 48-page document, and it had a lot of jargon that I did not understand. Ford uses a lot of acronyms. Sometimes they sometimes get lost with it too. So, by asking them, it kind of refreshes their memory. So don't be afraid to just ask. They know that you're still learning, and they'll be fine with you asking questions.
Yeah, I would piggyback off both of those. Just say go for it and take the risk. And I especially would recommend just trying to find someone some way that has been in the position that you're kind of looking to get in. Use your resources, your, campus recruiting, your LinkedIn, whatever you can, to just reach out to people that have done that and have some conversations, do your research, and just go for it.
Yeah. Thank you. Sam or Sarah, any final thoughts for the folks watching at home?
Yeah, just one piece of advice. So here at Ford, we have our Ford truths that we live and work by. So if you do by chance get an interview, I would recommend looking those up. You can find them on the internet, just type Ford truths, and see if you can kind of connect yourself to these truths. And some of them might be put people first, be curious, built Ford tough. So in the interview, maybe try and throw in or allude to these truths, that you're curious, or you maybe volunteer in your free time and you put people first. And that'll definitely set you apart in the interview process.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the interns were saying that, I think a common the theme is the be curious, right? And, asking the questions. That's a big thing here at Ford, especially to dive into, outside your organization and figuring out things, but even inside the interview process, I'm sure. So, and I guess the biggest overall arching goal is, even though you're link yourself to those goals, but make sure you be yourself. At the end of the day, that we're trying to hire someone, be the next generation of the Ford family, and just want to see if how you fit inside that role. Just be yourself.
Terrific advice, everybody. I think the folks at home, if you've enjoyed this, again, I'm going to highly encourage you to go to careers.ford.com, take a look at the opportunities we have there. Sarah mentioned our truths. Those are on our culture page on careers.ford.com. So you can learn more about who we are, what we stand for, and what we do here at Ford. I'm also going to recommend, if you are interested in maybe the tech side of the equation, this was definitely our manufacturing PD conversation. We have one of these tomorrow at 4 p.m. here on Facebook, where we're going to have interns and FCGs from more of our computer science, tech, IT side of the equation. So we'd love to see you back here tomorrow, if you've got some interest in those areas as well. Again, let me say thank you to all of our panel. Ben, Josh, Nia, thank you for sharing the intern experience. Sam and Sarah, thank you so much for talking to us about what it's like to come back and work for the company full time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Billy.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks, Billy.
Good luck to you all.